There we go. All right, awesome. So cool, guys. Hey, thank you. This is the first Fire Friday that we're doing. I'm going to be doing these every single Friday. Obviously, the first Friday of every month will still be First Friday, our partner meeting. But all the other Fridays, we're going to do a Fire Friday. It's 30 minutes, and it's just focused on agent attraction. So we're gonna get right down to it. But each one of the Fridays, I will have some kind of a special guest on who can teach us all a thing or two about how to maximize the opportunity for revenue share. And for those of you, we have a couple of people that are new to eXp. And so, just real quick, I'll just mention that, one of the coolest things, real estate company is a real estate company. It's, with every business on that platform, it's going to be what you make of it, what you bring to the table, and what you pour into it to go make it happen, right? It doesn't, being with the best company or the worst company does not determine whether you will be successful or not. It certainly can help by having the right tools and the right support and everything else, no question. But you have to be the one that's a right fit for you. And then, looking at your big picture and what you're trying to build. It's why we're FYR, fund your reason, which is what we're about. And this platform allows you to build a great real estate sales business and make a lot of money, keep a lot in your pocket. But at the same time, it has the other paths of adding stock and ownership in the company as you go and you produce. And then it has the long term that allows you to really build freedom in your lives with revenue share. And so, these calls are going to be focused on how to do that. So I'm really excited. My buddy Jay Kinder agreed last minute to jump in with us. So Jay, I appreciate your flexibility. Jay, it's been super fun to get to know Jay and to watch what he's done. You were in here, I think you were just before me. Were you 2018, right?
November 2017. Yep.
Okay. Yep. So he was in right before. So I've never known eXp without Jay, but I have had a chance to watch his numbers grow from fairly small numbers up through to be pretty impressive. He's now almost at 9,000 agents in his organization. So just to give you a quick background before I set Jay loose, he built a huge sales business. He was the #2 Coldwell Banker agent worldwide. Massive business, very well known from the sales circles, which allowed him to also get into doing a lot of other cool things like partnering up with Hal Elrod, right, for Miracle Morning for Realtors. So he was the co-author with Hal on that book. So you probably all read that book. That was Jay. He also built a pretty awesome group, NAEA, the National Association of Expert Advisors, huge coaching organization, and so much more, big business group, massive. And now he's the #8 influencer at eXp out of over 87,000 agents. So rarefied air for what he's been able to build. And so we're going to pick it apart and figure out how he did it so we can copy him and chase him to the top.
There we go.
So, Jay, let me ask you a couple questions, buddy. Unless if you have anything you want to start off with, I'll let you do that.
No, man, happy to be here. I'm always a resource. So, anybody that's on here ever needs anything, don't hesitate to reach out. That's part of the beauty of this thing is you're not doing it alone. And I'm always happy to chip in and help if you have something that I can help with.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, cool. So I'm going to take Jay through a couple of questions. Hopefully it'll be helpful to you guys, and then we'll do a little bit of Q&A before we wrap up at the end of the call today. So Jay, you came in, obviously you saw the opportunity. Revenue, I would imagine revenue share was the big attractor for you as far as shifting the business to eXp. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was clear that it was better for the agent. That was, and if it's better for the agent, it was better for us. And so, we jumped all in on revenue share. And that was the thing we saw. Once I saw that, I understood that what was possible. I didn't know exactly how we were going to do it, but jumped in, went all in focused on revenue share.
Nice. So all right, so how'd you get started? You guys came in, you saw the opportunity. What was kind of how did you guys build a foundation and get things going?
Yeah, so we started, and we all need to get back to this because it was paramount to our growth. We were on social all the time. And so I started by, doing a Facebook Live, which wasn't that popular back in 2017 necessarily. I think the very first video had, something like 20,000 views or something like that. And we continued at least 3 or 4, almost every day doing Facebook Lives with every person that was coming over, just letting them tell their story. That was good for them, because they would have people that knew, like, and trusted them, that would see that they came over, and would usually, result in a handful of conversations and a handful of people joining them, over time, if not right away. And so we were very disciplined with following the process, which was, we made our list of people that we knew. We stayed on social. We kept putting it out there. We kept putting out there. And there's just a ton of success. Every time somebody joins, that's a success story. And everybody has, a little different reason as to why they're joining. Not everybody, obviously, that came on board was joining for revenue share. That was, it seemed repetitive to me because I was doing so many of those types of Facebook Lives and social media type stuff. But it was, you can't do it enough. People still to this day don't really truly understand the opportunity at eXp. And the best way to do that is to let people tell their story.
Yeah, 100%. What platform did you, I know you were doing it on Facebook, but did you do it on on your personal page? Did you do it on your NAEA page, or where'd you put that?
Yeah, no, I mean, we did it. I did it on my personal page, and my business page, actually, my Jake Hinder business page or whatever, which doesn't have, I mean, it's probably like, 7,000 or 8,000 people that followed me on that particular page. And so that was where we started, and just continued to be out there talking about eXp, talking about the opportunity, talking about who was joining, letting them tell their story. And I think StreamYard came around not long after that, and we started using StreamYard as the tool for us to do that. It makes it super easy. You can post in multiple groups. You can post in, all at one time on YouTube and everything. And so that was the other thing we did. We utilized YouTube as well. So with all those stories, still this day, people are watching videos that I've done, 4 years ago, that are out there on YouTube. So that just making sure you're using the key. I did an okay job, certainly, not having, the in the beginning, you don't have the enough revenue share coming in to have all the resources I was used to having in the companies that I ran, where I could tap into them for everything. And so I found myself doing a lot of the little work, like another tool that I used was called Tube Buddy. I can't ever say that without making it sound weird, but Tube Buddy on YouTube just helped with the keywords and some of that stuff that is a little mundane, but is important. And, putting the right keywords in, to the videos that you're putting out there. So when people were searching for eXp, and still this day, when they do, what happens a lot of times, especially even still today, is, they hear about eXp enough, and then they go search, and, they say, what the heck is this eXp thing or whatever. Right. And they go and they search, and then they bump into different, videos and this, and that, and the other. And so, I think in the very beginning, there was, nobody doing more videos than us. And that's where a lot of inbound conversations came from. And even still, which my growth has been crazy, but, I only averaged maybe 3 agents a month for the last 5.5 years. So it's not a lot of individual people. I think the key became really identifying the people in my organization that saw the opportunity side of it. Making sure we were adding value to the agents that wanted to do more production, and make sure that they were successful, and add as much value as we could to the whole entire network and the whole entire company, but also identifying who was coming to the events, who was out there focusing on following the process, which we created training around, using the 3-way call. And most of my, I remember the first year, it was 999 calls. And I was like, that was just the scheduled calls that were in my schedule once. It was just under 1,000. I probably did way more calls than that weren't scheduled or whatever. But most of the calls that I did during that time it was probably an 80-90% 3-way calls. Wow. And when I look at, the size of my organization, the people that have 500 or more probably did, 100, like Dan Hillsman, who has, right at 1,000 people in his organization now, was just an average producer. When he was coming over, he wasn't really that, all about the revenue share. He was interested in it, but didn't think he had enough influence, or, knew enough people. to really focus on it and do, and build it really big. But he was a student of the game. I mean, student. He followed the process to the T. And in that first 2 years, I think we looked it up in our calendars, and it was 150 throughway calls I did with Dan Hillsman. Wow. And it started with Dan, just Dan. And I told him, I said, don't answer anybody's questions. I don't care if you know the answer, don't answer it. Put them on a three-way call with me. And he was like, okay, so like if they asked what color the logo was, I mean, he was like, I don't know, we should get on a call with you. And so I got on a ton of those calls, and then he kind of identified a few leaders that were just as disciplined as him, followed the process just like him. And I ended up doing, that 150 calls ended up being some of them with me and him and a couple of his leaders, that were bringing people on. And so, he kind of identified that 2 or 3 leaders in his organization. And that's really what helped him propel to where, he's at 1,000 now. And so that's that is the duplicatable part of the process is, I think the biggest challenge we all have is we try to explain eXp, and we try to anytime we're trying to, we're trying to get people to see the light, right? And you want to tell them everything, and you're excited about the opportunity. And unfortunately, people just tune out. They feel like they're being sold. And, the three-way call is just a way to, to use a third party to help answer their questions, as opposed to, creating a resistance like, well, you're just trying to recruit me. Well, hey, let me just get you on this call with this guy. He's super knowledgeable. He can help you with your business, whatever your goals are. And that is a less sales resistance type environment. You're just trying to help someone, and it's easier to get someone to say yes to that. And so, I feel like the most growth that I've had is when I'm doing the most three-way calls. Like I get off a day where I've had, like 10 or 12 or 15 three-way calls. And I'm like, man, I think I made a difference today. Like some of those people wouldn't have come if I hadn't just unpacked where they're at, where they're trying to go, and how this was going to help them get there, and how we could help them get there. And so that was the first 2 years, it was very much grinding and doing three-way calls for my group. And so that's kind of where it transitioned to less about what I was personally doing, but it was more about what my people in my group were doing that resulted in the growth.
Awesome. Guys, there's a lot of gold in that. I mean, the three-way call, something that we talk about a lot. But that's, really the sales resistance, right? Overcoming that is really the magic behind it. It's not that you don't have the answers, not that you don't know what you're doing. It's not that you don't know how to help them. It's just pure psychology, right? They're going to have a wall up when it's you. And I find it the same thing. I can answer questions about eXp probably better than, just about anybody, but right. It still is the same coming from me. I get the same kind of reluctance. I hand them over to someone else and suddenly they're a genius. Yep. So yeah, for sure. So Jay, do you remember back, where were you at the end of 6 months? Do you remember what your org size was?
Yeah, I tracked it all. I can look and see exactly where I was. I know I hit like 1,100 in my first 12 months. Okay. And a lot of our focus when we sat down and did our strategy, and funny part of the story, I was still, in the coaching organization, and that's where I got paid from. So there's always kind of this transition you have to make of, focusing on it full time versus where's my money coming from today. And so the first few months, I remember I sent out an email incident from my office, and it was to do a free coaching call. And I sent it out to the entire list on accident. And I remember I left my calendar open like Friday, all day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I started getting these dings, ding, 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 ding. I'm like, oh shoot, I was driving. I'm literally booked solid now for the whole entire weekend. And it was to sell coaching because that was my primary business at the time. And so I get on all these calls, and at the end of every one of them, I should have been trying to sell coaching. But at the end of every one of them, I was like, man, I did not know this was going to be the case, but I have to show you something. Like, you have to see this, right? And so it just kept happening over and over again. And so my belief in this was just better. Like, you could pay me, but why don't you just partner with me and come join eXp, and you're going to be better off than where you're at now. The math is better. Like, everything was just better every time. Like, and so that's when I really, started to commit, was, when I realized that this is really, truly better for any situation that I'm on the phone with somebody. And so that first 6 months, we did a strategy meeting, and we determined that we wanted to go after, which was our ideal client in the coaching organization, was, we kind of always had a focus around helping winners win bigger. It's hard to make a loser a winner. It's easier to make a winner win bigger and faster. And so we were always working with, independents, teams, and things of that nature, because that's what we were. We were a team that had built a large business. Both me and Mike had both done that. And then we'd helped, a lot of other people build successful teams. And then ultimately we'd help them go independent because they were at a Keller Williams or at a whatever place they were at. They were paying too much money. Yeah. And so we actually helped a lot of people go independent. And so that was our target. We decided we wanted to whale hunt. And we started with, those relationships of people that we had helped in the past. And so that first 6 months, I remember the check I got, I think it was actually month 6, was like 30 grand or something like that. It was a big enough number at that point. I was like, I know what I'm doing now every day.
Yeah. Right.
And there was like, because there's no question at that point that, I've got to find it. I've got too many tabs in here. Okay, here it is. So in month 6 was $29,081.69. I had 31 agents in my front line, and I even had people all the way down in my in my 7th level at that point, which was a total of 535 agents in 6 months, and they did 344 transactions. So that was and man, it was hard.
Yeah,
like way harder than it is today, because nobody knew who eXp was. Yep. There was nobody at eXp in any of the markets that they would go look in the MLS and they'd be like, y'all don't have anybody that sells anything. Like, yeah, this is, and that we had to try to convince them they were going to be, the first, and that was going to be the opportunity, and, all this and that and the other. And so a lot of brand resistance, because people didn't know what it was. In the very beginning, getting people over that hump, it was a lot harder, for sure.
Yeah,
but it was still working, obviously.
Yeah, very little training, none of the tech. We didn't own Verbella yet. We didn't have any of the stuff, right? So there wasn't much there.
No, and operationally, we just were not built to bring on teams. So yeah. It was like a very painful process to move a team over. I remember, one of my good friends and one of my clients for a long time is Jeff Cook. He's one of the top agents in the world, does a couple thousand deals a year. One of the first people I know that ever did 1,000 transactions. And we brought him over, and it was such a bad experience. And there was some misalignment, just some misalignment and, the early stages of some of the operations and what they were, allowing us to do and not allowing us to do. And it was a little bit wonky in the beginning there. And so we lost him. Right. And so like, it was super painful. Like my first, he had 100 agents on his team, and we lost him in like the 6th month, and he bailed out. So yeah, it was a little bit, a little bit tougher, not near as much value. It was good. The agents came, they were happy, but there were still some growing pains that, obviously we were dealing with at that time. Right.
So, all right. So give us a few of who are the big producers that are in your front line? Like, who have you brought in that are one of your, FLAs, FLQAs, who, as far as not production wise, but by growth wise, like who are the other big influencers you've got?
Yeah. So, right. and so, obviously Michael Reese, who is, my business partner. Al is my business partner. So we had to spread things out between Al, me, and Michael, which I don't recommend. It is really hard. The amount of agents you have to recruit to fill 3 buckets is not, is not an easy thing to do. And so in the beginning, we tried to put, and we did not know, and you sometimes just don't know who's going to actually do anything. And so I did put Dan Hilsman under Mike Reese. I put Chuck Fazio, which was Chuck with Curtis Johnson. We put him under Mike Reese. That to be determined if that was the right decision or not. We obviously get paid 3 buckets, but we lose a 7th level as well, in that number. Outside of that, as far as growth, Carlos German is in my front line. He's got a couple 2,500 agents in his revenue share group. And I've got quite a few teams. John Kitchens is under Mike, who was one of our coaches at our company. So we try to kind of align all our best people. Also Woods Davis. Woods has got, I think, over 1,000 people. Kitchens has probably got 250. And so Andrew Gadosh, who's in Dayton, Ohio, probably has 200 and something agents underneath him. I'd sponsored him. Let's see who else do we have that's really,
Because I think,
really,
Jay, I think that, maybe the point behind that is people try to figure out what do they like if they want to get to 8,000, 9,000 people in their organization, or they want to get to 3,000 or 1,000, right? What's that path? And a lot of times they look at it's like looking at the $500 million producer, when you're trying to sell 10 million, right? And you're trying to go like, wait a minute, how do I do this? How do I break this down? And what's always been amazing to me is that there's nobody in all the alphas that just has a massive front line full of ballers. There's nobody.
no,
It's
not
like,
one. No,
it's they got one. I got this person. I got a handful of good people. The magic is in the combined power of the entire organization. Where I've just seen that every line, like, okay, hey, I got one good person, right? I got a bunch of good people, but I've got one amazing person who's really a builder, and they've done a nice job because they've been able to influence one or two other really good ones. And there's been this branch that goes out, but in every line, hopefully you've got one or two that are really going after it. And then the others that on average are doing average.
yeah.
And
I mean, I think when I pulled this up, it's been a little while since I've pulled it up, but I remember when I pulled it up, I was surprised by the numbers. It was, I'm at 73 FLAs right now. And it's been between 70 and 90 is kind of where it's kind of been for the last few years, but more than half of them have not recruited one person. So that's, it's really only a couple of them that have really gone after it. And I think, the formula that I kind of look for is, especially if I've got somebody who's got 5 to 10 in my front line, my goal is to get them to 50 and then get them to 100. And to get them to 50, we got to identify, they've got to follow the process, and then they've got to find another person in their organization that sees it too. At 100, you tend to have 2 or 3 people that are like that are really going after it and coming to all the events. That's the biggest evidence of success that I see is they're coming to all the events, they're bringing people to events, and they're following that process using the the three-way call process. That's who we're trying to identify. And for me, it's even if they're not going gangbusters, if they've got somebody underneath them and I can light a fire under them, I'm going to do calls with them, and I'm going to focus. It don't matter where they're at in my organization either. I'm trying to help, but it does help if you focus on your front line and anybody that, if you've got somebody that's going after it, more so than helping someone on your 7th or whatever. But that's never been my focus. I'm looking for the people that are just focused on it and trying to help them identify their 2 or 3 people that, that are, gonna put some time and effort into it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we got a couple minutes left. A lot of the folks here are just really starting that journey. They're committed to it. They're more than interested in it. They're committed to it. They're starting to put in the work, but many of them are just getting started. So what should they be doing right now today? Because it's a little bit different today.
It's like anything. If you want to take more listings, you have to talk to more sellers. If you want to work more, put more buyers under contract, you have to talk to more buyers. If you want to recruit more agents, you have to talk to more agents. It's a conversations per day metric. And, you start with the people that know, like, and trust you. You can make a list of people that would answer the phone if you called, or would at least have your name in their phone. That's where you start. I think a lot of people skip that step, and I could have done a much better job of that myself. And I think everybody that's got a large organization will tell you the same thing, that they should have done a better job of making that list. It definitely starts with that. But that's, and you guys can go through all of our training. It's at agentattractiontraining.com. And you can kind of go through, we laid out kind of the process of, the entire process with everything and scripts and all that good stuff. But that's where you start, for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah. You've done, are your videos in there about kind of what you call the process, right? Where it's
all process.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Step by step, simple process. It's not complicated.
No.
I think as entrepreneurs, we all over entrepreneur it.
Right.
But it is a process, and it's pretty well defined in that training.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, guys, there's go to agentattractiontraining.com. You guys can go through and find it. And I'll find the specific video I'm referencing, but there's one where, Jay just walks through, just kind of the common sense, soup and nuts. Here's the process, right? Just do these steps, and really, a lot of conversations, relationships, and, inviting and three-way calls.
Yep.
So it's
And it's not, don't get caught up in thinking you have to talk, you have to recruit, a person. If you've got somebody in your organization, they've got relationships you can tap into. And so, that's, that sometimes we get caught up in thinking, well, man, I need to get more people in my front line, which you do, but, to really get a spark and get things going, as long as you're having conversations with somebody, there's people in your organization that know people that are great, would be a great fit that you could be on, on a call with, or you could be getting on a three-way call with someone that could really spark the growth. You'll figure out how to recruit, individually, once you have a big group, because you'll know how much money you're leaving on the table. So you'll solve that problem eventually. But don't overlook that as part of the strategy.
Yeah. And I think, Jay, a lot of people have gone to you because they've seen what you've done for other people, right? You help them. I mean, from a coaching standpoint, you help people blow up their sales business and make a lot of money. And they went, man, your business is killing it. What'd you do? And they said, oh, I hired Jay and he told me what to go do. And so they go to you and go, Jay, can you help me? Right. Well,
right.
Same thing here. If you get someone good who's focused on it in your, first or even second line, it doesn't matter. And you go help them be wildly successful, then other people are going to go, man, how did you do this? Well, Jay's been helping me. Cool. And they're going to go to you. So you get a reputation of being a business builder for others. And then people want to be around you. They want the secret sauce, and they start coming to you. Your phone starts to ring. And I know people come to you all the time.
Yep.
So, now they're, people are knocking on your door, and whether it's for you or for someone in your group.
Right.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, any last words of wisdom? We're already up on 10:30. Flew by.
Yeah, man. I would just say, be more public, be more on social, tell more stories. It's not hard. Don't overcomplicate it. You can just do these Zooms and do the StreamYard thing and just be, visible and share the story. I mean, we have a great story. We're changing agents' lives, whatever it was, 240 million. Was it 240 million? I thought it was 204, but 240 million, I think, was the number that was thrown out the other day in revenue share that was paid out to agents in this company. It's life-changing. It's just a better way for agents to have success and have something at the end of their career. Love it.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you took lots of notes. I saw lots of things pinging in the chats and everything else. I'll post this video so you guys can go back and reference it as well, and share it with other people in your group who maybe weren't able to jump in here today. And then we'll be back every Friday to do this. Jay, man, I appreciate you, brother. I look forward to hanging out with you again soon.
I'll see you, shareholders.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jay.
Have an awesome weekend.
Guys.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.